Good morning and thank you for joining today's session on the Virtual Village Hall. We're going to be talking about homegrown produce today. Whether you've got an allotment, a small patch of garden, or whether you've just got enough room for some large pots, you can easily grow your own fruit and veg. I'm going to start by taking you through the allotmenting year, give you some tips of what you could grow for say next year and also what you can still grow now. And then we're going to talk about preserving some of that fruit, especially apples, which are coming off my trees like no one's business at the moment. So we're just going to start by looking at some photos. There's partly, when you sort of talk about the allotment produce and the allotmenting year, then there's definitely a bit of a hungry gap. That's normally kind of those kind of cold winter months and then into early spring. This one was taken on my allotment. I've been attending my allotment for about 16 years now. And this one was taken around April time. So we've still got some purple sprouting broccoli. They can actually still go in now, seedlings. So if you pop along to your nursery, then you should be able to still find some seedlings. They can go in now, along with leeks. So there we've got some purple sprouting broccoli. I also let some of my other broccoli go to seed. That's that yellow flower. And they are edible as well. So you can grow, so flowers can be edible too of some plants. Just check before you do eat them, make sure that they're not poisonous. These ones can then be scattered onto sort of winter salads or even onto rice to give a real hit of colour in those colder winter months, but also to give a little bit of flavour as well. So you get some of that sort of cabbage bitterness flavour coming through with those flowers. I've also got in there some sorrel, which is a herb, a very lemony, citrusy herb. And it's one of my kind of milestones of the year where I can dig up my new potatoes, which I'm going to talk to you about in a minute, some early ones that I grow in the greenhouse, have them with salmon, not grown on the allotment, but still pretty good. And then I make up a sorrel sauce just with butter, sorrel and cream, a little bit of seasoning, and it is just absolutely gorgeous. One of the highlights of my year. And the sorrel leaves are so zesty. You'd think that there was lemon in the sauce. I also grow a few cut flowers on my allotment, and you can see just up in the top left hand corner there is some love in a mist. So that comes quite early on because it self seeds itself, so it's already ready kind of around sort of April time. So that's the sort of start of the growing year. Obviously at that point as well, you're getting all your seeds in, get them grown on your windowsills in the greenhouse, but also you can start sowing directly into the soil then as well. If we look at the next photo, then we can see you're getting the first early potatoes in. So I actually put a few of my potatoes in very early. Undercover in my greenhouse, I've got some very large sort of, they're kind of like woven refuse bags, almost like a hippo bag, but not as big. And I put those in the greenhouse about probably about sort of January, February time. You can't direct plant those yet in the actual ground. You do need to wait until sort of April before all the frosts are over, but if you can get them in the greenhouse, then you can have extra early potatoes. So I'm normally harvesting my first early potatoes around sort of the beginning of May time. And again, it's one of those highlights of the year. Digging potatoes is one of those where you just like you're searching for gold, and you never quite know what you're going to get, how many you're going to get until you pull the plant, but you dig down and they're coming up to the surface. Yeah, I get really excited about it, and I hope you would too. So if we look at the next photo, this one was also taken in May. So I'm lucky enough to have got two greenhouses on my allotment. Someone had just moved into their house and they were getting rid of them. So I managed to, with my dad and my sister, we took them all down and then we rebuilt them up on my allotment. So I can grow quite early cucumbers on my allotment in the greenhouse, but you can also grow cucumbers outside. They don't take up a lot of room. They just want something to crawl up, to climb up. And as long as you keep the roots nice and moist, keep them cool, then they will just reward you with lots of little cucumbers. A great variety to grow outside is Market Moor. They don't get much bigger than or you shouldn't harvest them much bigger than your hand, because after that they can start to go bitter. But Market Moor is a good variety to grow outside. So we'll look at the next photo now. As we go into full-on harvesting time. We often think of harvesting time as sort of September, October, but actually homegrown produce, you're probably harvesting it sort of from, I think this box was picked sort of June time. So we've got some French beans. I try and keep my allotment organic, so there's also a little ladybird in the mix there. I put him back, don't worry, after the photo is taken. I've also got some summer squash too up in the top left hand corner. So we've got some summer sun. They are those sort of round UFO kind of saucer type squash. I picked those quite young. You can eat them fresh, or you can also steam them, put them in stir fries, add them to curries. Also some other yellow courgettes there. I also grow the green variety. And if you look, they've still got the flowers on now. I've never done it myself. I keep meaning to, but you can take those flowers, stuff them with really good stuff like cheese and rice, and then you can put them in batter and then deep fry them. I've never done it myself, but maybe next year. That's one for next year. And again, the new potatoes are still continuing into May, June time. So as we go from the summer months with the sweet peas, let's have a look what's next. So a great thing to do if you are growing your own is try and grow things that you wouldn't normally find in the supermarket. And these purple podded beans come really early, a bit earlier than the runner beans. Obviously, there's always a place for runner beans because they're so much better, fresher, off of your plants rather than from the supermarket plastic packs. But these are purple podded beans. They're just a little bit different. Unfortunately, the colour does go as soon as they hit the boiling water, but they look great if you're growing them in a garden. Then they look great climbing up. The flowers themselves are purple, and then the purple beans come afterwards. So it's a real kind of hit of colour in your garden if you're mixing your garden for veg and also for flowers. So let's have a look at the next photo. So I would say if you're going to grow anything, I would say grow a tomato, because tomatoes from that you've grown yourself are so sweet and so flavoursome. You can sometimes get some good tomatoes, the kind of the vine sun ripened ones in the supermarkets, but I don't think that they beat a homegrown tomato. This particular one is called Vortex, and it is, I believe it's a Polish variety, an heirloom variety. I'm a member of the Heritage Seed Library, and I get to choose 6 different seeds a year. It's definitely worth signing up to if you want to try some really unusual varieties. So this one, as I said, is called Vortex, and it's a big beefsteak tomato. And they get absolutely huge, and they're just so attractive cut. They've got these kind of heart shape. Have them fresh, have them cooked. They make a really good in a sauce as well. I especially love them sliced thinly with some basil and some mozzarella, a bit of salt and pepper, and then just a sort of a drizzle of olive oil. Another kind of milestone to my growing year. So that's the tomatoes. Definitely grow some of those. You can even grow them in pots. Just need a really nice sunny position for those. So what have we got next? Sweet corn. So these do take up a little bit more room. You're probably going to look at maybe sort of for a good sort of 16 plants, 12 to 16 plants. You want a big sort of 2 metre by 2 metre square. So this isn't one that you can really grow in pots or in a small space. They do need to be together, and they need to be planted in grid formation, so that when all the pollen from the flowers falls down onto the cobs themselves, which grow just off the stem of the flowers, that the pollen all falls on those the sort of fibrous bits, and then that's going to pollinate your corn, and you're going to get beautiful sweet corn like this. You cannot beat, again, I know I've said this before about tomatoes, but yeah, you really can't beat fresh sweet corn that you've grown, because if you buy it from the supermarkets, then they do, or even from the farmer's market, they do the sugar contents, it starts to lose the sugar content really quickly. But if you can pick it and cook it within about sort of 10-20 minutes, then there's just nothing like it. They are so sweet and gorgeous. Don't put any salt in the water. You're not really cooking it. I kind of think of sweet corn as you're not really cooking it, you are just kind of almost just heating it through. So no salt in the water, because that will make them go a little bit hard. So just in boiling water, just for sort of five minutes or so. Just make sure they're hot. On the plate, butter and some ground pepper. Oh, absolutely gorgeous. A real taste of early autumn. So let's see what we have next. So carrots can be grown pretty much throughout the year. Even now you can still be sowing carrots. Just double check the variety, the seed packet, just check the variety. It does say that they are sort of an autumn sowing carrot. You can pick them very young, or you can let them grow to a lot bigger. You can even, I've not done it myself, but I have seen packets where it says you can grow them in window boxes. So these are just the small kind of, the variety is kind of a round carrot, and you can grow them in a window box. The reason you can do that is because they're round, they don't need to put down a really long taproot. So you can experiment with carrots even on a windowsill. And then moving on, we noticed that the colours in this box have changed. So we've still got some of the yellow courgettes. We've got the carrots now. We've got the chard in the bottom right hand corner. That's a type of spinach, really expensive in the supermarkets, but so easy to grow, and it just self seeds on my allotment, so I just let it do its thing. And annoyingly, the ones that self seed are always the ones that are the plants that are a lot healthier and lush than the ones that I self sow, that I sow and I mollycoddle and I water. It's always the way, isn't it? And you've also got some of the main potato crop coming through now, those pink potatoes, and also sunflowers. As I said, I like to grow some cut flowers on my garden in my allotment, sort of, so I can take them home. I once read that whatever time of the year you go to your allotment, always come back with something, whether that's just like a single flower stem, you know, just so that you can put it on your windowsill and you can remember your time on the allotment. So that is sort of late, I suppose we're late autumn now, and then we're moving on a bit later in the year. There's still some stuff that's coming. So if we have a look at the next photo, then the chard is still well and truly going into October. Mine runs right through the winter. I can pick it all through the winter, and then as we kind of come into sort of late spring, it starts to bolt. It'll set seed. If you don't want it to seed, then make sure you take the seed head off. You can take the whole plant out, put it on the compost. But if you want it just to self-seed around your garden, then just let it do its thing. These, with the chard, I grow something called, the variety is called Rainbow Lights. So I get different colours. That stem is so bright. So some are like yellow, some are almost a neon pink, white ones in there, and then this gorgeous kind of ruby red. And how you cook these, you cook it as almost two separate vegetables. So the leaves cook down very quickly, like spinach, and they've got a lot stronger, earthier flavour. My husband doesn't actually like it, but I do. I really, really love it. A little bit of salt and pepper on it. But first of all, you take off the stem. You start cooking that, chop it up like almost like celery, start cooking that first, just boiling it up, and then for the last few minutes you just pop the leaf part in, and that means that you're not wasting any of the plant. But the stems do take a bit longer to cook than the actual leaves themselves, but it's a great hit of colour on a really cold wintry day, and you feel like you're eating something really healthy and sort of full of good things. So as we go into late autumn, we can look at the next photo, And we see those kind of golden days, the long shadows as the nights are drawing in. And it's time to harvest all our winter squash, our pumpkins. I love growing pumpkins because, number one, they take up quite a lot of space, which is great for my allotment because it's quite big. And also they come in so many different varieties and different flavours. So you can actually grow these in a really good sized pot as well. Very easy to grow. You start them off around sort of April, May time, just one seed per small pot. Once they've grown, pop them onto larger pots, keep them well watered, well fed, and they will give you these gorgeous results at the end of the year. And I actually always keep a few back, and I've got a big kind of large terracotta fruit bowl, and I put them in the fruit bowl, and they're a gorgeous reminder of some lovely golden autumn days throughout the winter months, and so I just keep them as display. They last into the new year like that, and then I'll just cook them in the new year, so we'll get to use them. So that's a brief snapshot of my allotment through the year. Now, I would just like to say, for transparency reasons, please don't think that I have an absolute perfect allotment. It is a lot of hard work, allotments, lots of weeding, lots of watering. And I must admit, this year has been really difficult with not having a lot of rain. And I've also been very busy with work, so I haven't been able to go up there too much to water as much as I would like. So please don't think that I do have this perfect allotment, but it's amazing how much you can grow in such a small space. Although I haven't been able to spend the time that I wanted to this year, I've managed to get some lovely produce off of it, some courgettes, some beans, some tomatoes, some potatoes, and also some apples. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about now. So I've got 3 varieties of apples on my allotment. I've got this red one here, which is Discovery. So it's one that you've probably seen in the shops. It's a gorgeous, crisp and sweet apple. And I love it the way that the skin bleeds into the flesh as well. So you get this pink flesh too. That's a great eater, but not a very good keeper. So I'm going to show you how you can preserve any apple at all, but great for Discoveries, great for apples that don't keep so well. I also grow this one is James Grieve. It is an eating apple, but it does work really well as a cooking apple. It's nice to have a cooking apple too, so you can make your apple pies with all the cinnamon and then the cream, and also your apple and blackberry crumbles. And also I grow another one called James Ross, which is, I'm not going to move that because I think everything will fall over, but it's got a slight kind of red tinge to it. Charles Ross, sorry, I think it's a James Ross. Yep, James Grieve and Charles Ross. So it's great to have sort of a different variety of apples for different uses. So I'm going to show you now how to preserve your apples. If you don't have an apple tree in your garden or where you grow your fruit and veg, then don't worry. You can do this the exact same method with supermarket bought apples, or this time of the year there's lots of farms that do apple days. So I live quite near to Faversham in Kent, and the Brogdale Heritage plant nursery, I'm not sure that's quite the right word, but Brogdale, if you want to look it up, they have heritage apple days. So maybe go along to one of those days and then use some of those apples, as well as eating with them, cooking them, to make these apple rings, dried apple rings that I'm going to show you now. So how do you go about doing it? So make sure that your apples are nice and clean, give them a really good wash, and make sure that they're not badly damaged. A little bit of sort of insect or sort of bird damage is fine because we can just cut that off, but make sure you've got a good apple with not too much damage. Start by washing them, and then we need to core them. Now, if you don't have an apple corer, like I don't, then I find that this is the safest way to do it. And I'm just going to pop you down and show you. So I slice my apple in half with a really sharp knife. all the way down. You get that lovely kind of star shape, and then turn it over so you've got the flat side on the board, and then just cut round, rotating the apple as you go. And then you can push the core through like that, and then just if you've got any bits just left, just neaten those up. That one's fine. And do the same on the other one. Push the core through. Neaten it up, and then the core can go in the compost bin. Then I use a longer knife, and I'm going to slice through the apple, keeping my hands well out the way, and you're going to just cut about half a centimetre or 1/4 of an inch into rings. There we go. And in a bowl here, I've got 400 ml of water mixed with the juice of 1 lemon, or you can use concentrated lemon as well. Just look on the bottle to see the equivalent. And that's just going to go into my water and lemon mix, and that's going to make sure that they don't go brown. So carry on cutting. And they need to soak in the lemon mixture for about 10 minutes or so. Now these snacks are very low in fat. The apple rings are very low in fat. They're high in potassium. This is always also a great way to save money, because in the shops they're about 250 grams, cost about £2.50. So when you think about the price of an apple, you're saving the pennies too. They're good for putting in lunch boxes and snacking, or for putting on your porridge in the winter days when you just kind of need a real hit of kind of golden autumn sun. Make sure those well in the water. So I won't use that. I'm just going to take that bit off, see how far it goes in. That's just a little bit of bird damage, I think. So that's fine. Keep carefully slicing. There we are. So that's all of our apples in a bowl. So just cut as many apples as you want. And then here's ones that I cut earlier. So they've been soaking in that lemon mixture. Bring it up slightly. There we go. So they've been soaking probably for about half an hour now. So they've kept their colour really, really well. And you can either put these then on a wire rack, just shake off the excess water, put them in a wire rack and put them in a very low heated oven. That would be sort of about 100 degrees Celsius, or sort of on a simmer if you've got a gas oven, for about 3 hours just on a wire rack. Also, if you notice, there are some bits that I didn't quite make a ring, so that's what I would then go and do with those. Or you can put them on a rack and just leave them in a really warm place, maybe just covered slightly with like sort of a food cover so it doesn't get dust or any flies on it, and they will be really good for snacking on too. Or alternatively, you can take a very, very clean bamboo stick or similar, just oil it. So I've just got some vegetable oil, so I don't want a strong flavoured oil, just a plain oil. Put that on to a piece of kitchen roll, and then I'm just going to oil that just so that the apples don't stick to it whilst they're drying, so I can take them off nice and easily. And then just make sure I get the right bowl. Yes, it's this one. And then just thread them on. And then you can hang those up somewhere really warm. So I've got a loft room. That's this room, which does get really warm in the summer. So I'm going to leave them to dry up here for about 3 days. And then when they're dry, they'll kind of be very soft and almost like chamois leather. They shouldn't stick together. So that's how you know that they're completely dry. Space them out nice and evenly. So the rest are just my bits, so I'll put them just on a metal grill, a metal sort of tray. And that's it. And then once they're dry, they can be packed into just an airtight container. So either go for sort of a kilner jar, a Tupperware, or just into a nice tin. And they'll keep for about 6 months. Keep them in a cool, dark place, just in the cupboard for about 6 months, and they'll last probably even a bit longer than that. But I would sort of say they're probably best before is their 6 months. So I didn't actually come up with this recipe myself. I got it from this book here. It's called The Edible Garden. It's by Alice Fowler. You may remember it was a BBC series a few years ago. And if you are mixing your flowers with your vegetables, maybe in your garden or even sort of on a patch of ground you've got, then this is such a good book. And it's got all about how to grow things, your veg, your flowers all together. And then it finishes by talking about how to preserve things. And this is where I got that apple rings recipe from. So a really good book if you're wanting to get into growing. It's a great for beginners, sort of, as well as enthusiasts and sort of anyone who loves gardening, even if you've been gardening for years. It's a really great one. So thank you so much for joining me this morning. I hope that's inspired you to maybe go out, pick some apples, find some apples at your local market, supermarket, apple days, and to make some really tasty snacks that are going to take you on through those winter months, to be a reminder of a lovely autumn, a lovely golden autumn. So take care, and I will see you again soon. Thanks then. Bye.